Joined by South Carolina's new swimming and diving head coach, Jeff Poppell. Coach, thanks for joining us and thanks for being a Gamecock.
Thank you. I appreciate it and excited to be here.
Well, let's talk about it. You came from Florida. What brought you to South Carolina? Why was this the right opportunity for you?
Well, it became obvious in Florida. I was in Florida for 5 years, had a lot of success, actually rebuilding the women's program there. So it was a similar dynamic here in terms of the challenge of coming in and building up South Carolina swimming and diving. And when I came and visited a few weeks ago, I'd only been to South Carolina one other time, and it was 15 years ago, and I only saw the pool. And I was just absolutely blown away. When I came to campus, had the opportunity to walk around the horseshoe and obviously see the facilities and meet with the administration here. I was blown away by the commitment to build something great within swimming and diving. But at the same time, as a coach and obviously recruiting prospective student athletes to the university, to be able to see what South Carolina had to offer was truly amazing.
What are the challenges you see ahead for you in building this program and making it great?
Yeah, I think, we compete obviously as every other sport in the conference does. We compete in the best swimming and diving conference in the country. So I think the biggest challenge initially through recruiting is just getting kids to come take a look. But I think once they come and they have an opportunity to see what I saw a couple of weeks ago, it's hard not to be impressed by it. So I think that's the initial one. And then obviously anytime there's a coaching change or a transition, obviously I need to establish a relationship with the existing team. So obviously over the coming weeks, that's my primary goal, is to get to know each of them on an individual basis, and obviously that relationship I think is going to be key to the existing team, being able to improve and develop and to help our program rise.
Let's expand on your schedule there. Obviously, as you just said, getting ready to know your team, and it's an Olympic year, and you might have ties to other people from other places that you've worked. And then moving forward through the summer into the fall, give us a little hint at what your schedule looks like.
Oh, it's busy. I don't know how much of it's swimming related though. No, it's just, again, having just arrived, one of the initial priorities I have is obviously assembling a staff, whatever that future staff is going to be going forward. So, that's occupied quite a bit of my time for the present, because it's all about laying the foundation. So that's my priority right now as we head into the summer, and obviously prior to the fall, is to lay that foundation so when we get to August and all the students come back and we start the new school year, we can kind of hit the ground running. We do have some athletes here that are training for competitions throughout the course of the season, and obviously we will prepare them accordingly to be at their best and successful from that standpoint. But like I said, most of my priorities over the course of the summer is all going to be about laying the foundation for the start of school year in the fall.
Where's the recruiting base? I'm sure there's not more than one when it comes to swimming and diving. It's right. a national sport and an international sport.
Yeah, for sure. And when you look at, you kind of look at, recruiting's changed a lot over the last 5 years. So you kind of look at some different bases. One being domestic, obviously in the U.S. It's not uncharacteristic to be able to recruit a student athlete from the West Coast even to the East Coast. So I think the whole country's kind of fair game from that standpoint. With the NC2A transfer portal, that's another, I think, key tool for any coach in any sport, possible transfers from other universities. And then the third, I guess you want to say, area is international. And especially in our sport, there's a lot of international swimmers and divers that have an interest in coming to the States to receive an education and to be able to enjoy some of the resources that are available at institutions such as South Carolina, to help them, further themselves in their sport. So I think, it's the whole world for the most part, as it relates to, the opportunities to recruit and where we recruit from.
And staying with recruiting, I know you're still making your way or getting to know this university a little bit, but what do you see as selling points, whether it's yourself, this program, and this university for recruits?
Well, like I said, the beauty is it blew me away when I came here, and I think for a recruit to step on this campus and compare it to any other campus that they're looking around, or whether it be the Southeast or the East Coast or even on the West Coast. It's hard not to be impressed, with the setting, and obviously where you're going to school. I saw 650 Lincoln, which are obviously the dormitories where the student athletes live. Again, I would put that up with any student housing situation across the country. And again, it's hard not to be impressed by that. Our facility is a little bit older from the swimming standpoint, but obviously there's a strong commitment here to improve those. But from an actual training standpoint, everything that we have here is adequate and obviously and what's necessary to build a program. We have a 10-lane 50-meter facility. That's a little unusual. A lot of other schools have 8 lanes, 50 meters, but for us to have a 10-lane 50-meter here and a separate diving well, like I said, that's solid. It's a solid offering to be able to develop a program and build it.
You were the head coach of the women's program at Florida before coming to South Carolina. Here you're taking over both programs, men and women. What do you see as the challenges in doing that? That's a lot of student athletes.
Yeah, I mean, my first 2 years at Florida, I was the associate head coach for the combined program. So I had the opportunity to work with both men and women there in that combined dynamic. So I have a good feel for what that looks like and obviously what's going to be necessary. I think the challenge that you're dealing with in that situation is just probably the number of individuals. When you look at a men's team and a women's team, there's differences differences in need between the two genders, but at the same time, you also have differences in need in each individual within the program. So I think that's the biggest challenge it presents, is just sheer numbers of athletes between the men's and women's program. But again, having had the opportunity to work with both at the University of Florida, I feel like I have a pretty strong grasp as to what's going to be necessary here.
Do you have a coaching philosophy or credo that you live by?
I just know the reason why I coach, and it's probably one of the reasons why I accepted this job at South Carolina, is I want to make an impact. I'd like to make an impact on individuals, obviously, in helping them go places and reach goals that maybe they didn't think were possible, but at the same time to be able to help a school or a program in general do things that they haven't done before. That's what motivates me. I just want to be able to make a difference and make an impact. So in my philosophy and how I go about things, I mean, the relationship with the student athletes, extremely important to me. It's one of the reasons I coach, because again, I feel like we're going to have a difficult time helping them go where they want to go if you don't have a strong relationship, built, with the student athletes. So that's always first and foremost, build the relationship, and then from there, with great communication, try to help them achieve everything they can and want to, in the sport itself.
I know at Florida, the teams had a lot of success in the pool and in the classroom as well. Obviously, South Carolina, the swimming teams here traditionally have done very well in the classroom as well.
Absolutely.
Swimmers have odd hours, and they have a lot of hours.
They do.
How do you do that? How do you make them successful in both without sacrificing one?
I think the biggest thing is number one, as a coach, you have control over scheduling. When you schedule those practices, and you're right. I mean, they're basically going, upwards of 9 practices a week with 2-a-days, 3 days a week. So it's a lot of time spent, training for the sport, and obviously be able to balance that with the time in the classroom to be able to perform there as well. It's not easy, but I think if I can put a schedule in place which allows them to focus the necessary time in both academics as well as the pool, that's the first step. And at the same time, a lot of the same characteristics and values and traits that you look for to be a successful swimmer are the same ones that help you be successful in the classroom. So I think there is a carryover to that. As you mentioned before, we had great student athletes at Florida, but we've had great ones here at South Carolina as well. So I think that the student athletes that we're trying to recruit here are also going to be individuals that have an opportunity to continue to help us reach those goals outside of the pool just as much as inside.
Might be an unfair question since you don't know your team yet that well here, but what are your goals for year one?
Oh, man. That's a loaded question. No, I mean, I've had to do this before. Like I said, at Arkansas, I was head coach, women's coach there once before, and they were at the bottom of the conference with the goal to climb. And even at Florida, when I took over the women's program, we were kind of in a similar situation there as well. I think control what you can control. That's kind of my focus. So when coming in, obviously the athletes that we have in the program, it's trying to help them develop and improve. As those numbers of athletes within our program improve, the level of our program should improve along with that. And then the second piece, which I think comes with building a program in year one, is recruiting. Like I said, it's not necessarily that we're going to be able to get the benefit of those recruits in year one, just given that we're in the summer already and the school's going to start here in the fall, but we can recruit those athletes this year to impact us in year two. So I think those are the two primary goals this year. Where that takes us in terms of a placing, I don't know. I always tend to focus more on the process, and knowing if we do a great job of the process, the results will be there.
And let's talk about you for a second.
Sure.
What's something most folks don't know about you? What do you like to do when you're not doing all things pool related?
Oh, that's a very good question. Well, I don't have a whole lot of hobbies outside. I mean, I have 2 children. My son actually is finishing his freshman year at NYU, and he's a swimmer there, although they haven't been able to swim a whole lot this year because of COVID, and most all the pools up in New York have been shut down. My daughter actually is just getting ready to graduate from high school next month, and she actually just made a decision to come to the University of South Carolina. So she
Good recruiting, coach. Good job.
Thanks. I did my best. Did not have to do much there. So she'll be starting here at South Carolina in the fall. So, from my perspective as a parent, I would have been pleased wherever she went, would have supported it, but I was tickled to death when she made the decision to come to South Carolina.
All right, as you look ahead and you get ready for year one at South Carolina, what are you looking forward to the most?
You know, again, it's going to be the moments and the experiences with the student athletes. I mean, competing's competing, and the meets are always fun in the SEC, competing against the best programs in the country. But at the same time, it's always going to be the memories and the experience shared with the student athletes that I always remember and cherish the most. So being able to form those new relationships with these athletes for the first time and be able to share in those experiences, that's what I'm looking most forward to. Because again, right now, I don't know them, you know, but I'm looking forward to the opportunity to get to know them as we go, not just initially, but as we go through the course of the first season.
All right, great stuff. Good luck this year.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, for Coach Jeff Poppell, I'm Brad Muller.